All right, 3, 2, 1, and go. This video is by request, but I made it a long time ago and deleted it, and now I am making it again. We will be talking about Mechwarrior Destiny, and before you guys that hate miniatures click away, um, hang on because we're talking about role playing in the Mechwarrior universe, not just, stomping around with mechs. First off, I'm not going to do a huge review on MechWarrior Destiny. There are many of those. Jose, a buddy of mine, he's got a channel. Check it out. Um, I'll link it. And he does a pretty good review. Rules wise, if you've ever played any version of the MechWarrior role playing game, first or second, I've never even seen third, so I can't tell you about that one. You'll pick Destiny up really quick. Be- I mean, because it's MechWarrior role playing. I mean, it is what it is. You have your rule book. It tells you how to make your character. It tells you uh, how to get your mechs, or gives you options for that depending on your what house you want to serve or mercenary unit you want to be a part of. And then it sticks you in the absolutely amazing BattleTech universe, which honestly, guys, if you haven't tried sci-fi role playing in the BattleTech universe, you're letting yourself down a little bit. But the thing with it is this: you have to have realistic expectations. And the reason I say that is a common refrain I hear from people who are, in every other way, amazing role players. You will still hear them say they have a problem with MechWarrior Destiny because basically just every player, all they want to do is play a mercenary band with their mechs. And every game, all they want to do is get a contract to go somewhere and kill something with their mechs. This is not a flaw. This is a feature because the name of the game is Mech Warrior, right? So if you want to play a game about espionage or being a merchant or being a grunt fighting it out on the battlefield, Mech Warrior Destiny or any version of Mech Warrior is the wrong tool for the job, and that is the issue here. If you're going to create something, you got to use the right tool for the job. And so for those other things, I would say, you might be better off with Traveler or Star Frontiers or something like that. And that's not hate towards Mech Warrior. It's just it's unfair unless the players are super into it to expect the players to say, "Hey, yeah, we want to play a Mech Warrior game," and then to expect them not to play Mech Warriors. Think about that. That's like saying, "Hey, you want to play some D&D?" and your group says yes, and then you're like, "Okay, we're going to play some D&D," but then instead of playing D&D, you force all the players to make characters that are going to be merchants in some city because I don't know why you would do that, but whatever. So, expectations when you're going to play MechWarrior Destiny. This for any MechWarrior, whether it's second edition, first edition, Destiny. Um, you have to manage expectations. The players have chosen to go along with you on this journey because they want to play big stompy robots, maybe for some specific house or other, or maybe as mercenaries, you never know. And they want to run around a battlefield and stomp things with their big stumpy robot. That's what they want to do. But does that mean that's all the game is? Absolutely not. See, many years ago, when I lived in the ghetto, which I did, with my brother and a couple, well, my other roommate, and we had a bunch of friends that came over. We played Mechwarrior, and it was Mechwarrior First Edition, which I think is a fine edition. Nothing wrong with it, whatever, uh, because they're all basically the same thing. I mean, you put together your attributes and skill packages, you make your character, it tells you what the target number is. And Destiny gives you rules so that you can convert your characters over to Alpha Strike or Classic Battletech or the Destiny combat, which allows you to actually play Mechwarrior Destiny with no miniatures. If you don't want to use miniatures, you don't have to with Destiny. But moving on. So in this case, it's easier for me to give you an example than it is for me to, I don't know, try to make something up. And I'm going to give you an example based on my own experience as a GM, DM, whatever, running a Mechwarrior game. So the players all agree they want to play Mechwarrior. And as I said, because it is what it is, and anyone you gotta be ready for it. They all decide they want to be a mercenary company, right? So my brother, he plays the hotshot pilot and the light mech. We've got the grizzled veteran and his medium mech. We've got all these different guys, right? And they're all playing their mechs, and they're a mercenary company. And the goal is to get X amount of millions of credits for each person so that they can finally just retire. That's their goal, right? And so they did a couple of, guard this, guard that, do this, do that missions, which ended up without very much combat, just the players interacting with locals at the listening post. Hold on. Connection lost, reconnecting. Okay. Apparently connection was lost, but it reconnected. Okay. So whatever. And then of course I ran missions where they, got to fight against other mechs and, mercenaries or house mechs to either rob supplies or whatever, because that's what Mechwarrior is about, is stompy robots. Remember that. Always remember that. If you want to run Mechwarrior Destiny, remember ultimately it's about stompy robots. Any other kind of sci-fi you want to run that doesn't involve stompy robots, pick up Traveler or freaking Star Frontiers, Frontier Space, Coriolis, anything else. Literally anything else. I'm sure there's some sci-fi games I missed because you want the right tool for the job. So anyway, what I decided to do is I decided that, I was not necessarily happy myself with the fact that every game was basically they go to the mercenary place, they talk to a house or other, they bargain for a job, then they take the drop ship, which takes a long time, to the world. And when they get to the world, what happens? Well, they, do whatever the mission is. They steal supplies, or they defend supplies, or they just go find some mech and kill it because, sometimes people just put hits out on other mech pilots because of maybe they're really effective, and it's like, hey, this lieutenant's been seen in this area, we need him killed. And is that kind of grim? Yeah, but it happens, right? But in this particular case, the players were on a world in the Free Worlds League, because that's what I like, but near to the border with Steiner. And when they were walking into a bar that was just off post, because they arrived into the town late. The mercenary board was closed. And so they decided to go spend some time in a bar, hanging out, maybe getting into a bar fight with, someone, whatever they were going to do, right? And I was totally good with that. I was like, okay, this is going to be good. So as they're walking into the bar, there's like this 90-year-old man, however old he was ancient, right? And he tells them, he's like, spare a drink for an old timer, And they're like, looking at him like, I don't know, freaking bums, whatever. And the guy's like, look, if you buy me a drink, I'll tell you a story my pappy told me about a treasure. So immediately the characters, who are all mostly D&D players, they're like, wait a minute, there's treasure, we're D&D players normally, so we like treasure, right? And the old man tells them that his pappy had told him when he was a kid that there was this treasure hidden, but he couldn't quite remember which world it was. And the treasure was called the Black Gold. And apparently the Black Gold was something from Comstar, some tech or something, right? Well, of course, anyone who knows Battletech knows that if you're playing in 3025 Succession Wars era and somebody says anything about some Comstar shit, you're all like, bing, hell yeah, please, and thank you. We would love some Comstar tech, because that's the good stuff, right? So they agree to buy him his drink. They buy him a whole damn, because this is how my players are. They buy him a whole damn bottle of scotch, and he starts talking, and he tells them the story that when his grampy was really, really young, he used to work on some planet as a construction worker, and they built a Comstar base on this planet, but it was like it built into a mountain, so like a bunker, right? And that there was a great treasure there that they called the Black Gold, and he don't know what it was, and his grampy wasn't super forthcoming about it. He didn't really know, but the reality is this treasure was there. But unfortunately, the old man, who kept drinking and getting drunker and drunker, he kind of got to where he forgot, like, if he ever even knew what world the Black Gold was even on. That was a thing he said. He's like, he wasn't quite sure. It's been like, 80 years, etc. But he thinks it's one of these worlds, and he named the worlds, right? Now, the players didn't know there was someone else that was listening in at the bar who was a member of another mercenary group. And when that other mercenary group heard the loud drunk talking about, Comstar stuff, they started listening too. And it was basically figured out that, yeah, this guy was for real. He knew stuff about Comstar and treasure, whatever it was. And the other mercenary group decided, yeah, they'd like to get their hands on this treasure as well. But it wasn't going to be that easy. I mean, because you've got the player group, and they're pretty powerful, and it's not worth it just, challenging them. And plus, nobody knows what world it's even on anyway. So they decide they're going to tell the players, you know what I mean? And just pay attention to where they go and follow them, in the hopes that if the players actually find the Black Gold, they'll be there to swoop in, ambush the players, and steal whatever the treasure is. So easy peasy, right? Right there, you've got a mission that involves mech warriors, but doesn't necessarily, excuse me, while I'm working on a piece of terrain, doesn't necessarily involve mechs every time, right? Like, for example, they had a couple of world names, but they didn't know much about the world names. So they had to go and they started doing research and looking into, military data files at different libraries, except a lot of the worlds that the guy had given him, most of them, let's say, were, you know, information, disallowed or whatever, uh, classified, you know, uh, enter Starleague key and stuff like this. And of course, the players didn't have a Starleague key. They're not members of Starleague. Starleague is like this. We're talking Kerensky, right? Is what we're talking. That's how old this is. So, long story short, they do the footwork, they get the info, they narrow it down, they go to the planet, they look where they think it should be, it ain't there. So then they have to start over. They're looking around, trying to figure out where this thing is, and eventually they find it. However, when they find it, it's this mountain that was caved in, and they check it out. And then they use the griffin in the party because it had hands to kind of dig there, and they found the door. And then one of the techs, because you could be a technophile in first edition, I believe, or second edition, he had to use his abilities, which means he had to get out of his mech and try to unlock the door, and that was taking him a while. And the whole time, the enemy mercenary unit had already landed the drop ship over the horizon, and they were on their way, post haste, let's say. So they're working on it, and the enemy unit Lance shows up, and they go to town at each other. They boom, 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 boom. They get ambushed. It's bad. They start fighting back. One of the guys lost his mech, which was a heavy. He lost his whammer, as I call him, Warhammer. But he managed to live when the mech lost its leg and fell over and whatever. By that time, the tech, who wasn't even the bow, so it was really like 3-on-4, he finally got the door opened, and it was a mech hangar. And inside of this mech hangar was mostly completely empty, except for a thug, which is, I think, an 80-ton Starleague era mech with PPCs and SRMs and maybe some pretty good Starleague technology. I'd have to look it up, right? So the guy who lost the mech, he has to run like half a kilometer from where his mech got downed, and he's hurt. So he runs over, and the tech runs in with him, and they have to spend time getting the engine going and everything, engine online, weapons online, right? So they do that, and the pilot who lost the Warhammer, he comes stomping out of that mech bay with this big black and gold painted thug, just ready to go. Starleague tech, old, but still ready to go. Every time he did anything, I made him make a random roll to see if the mech broke down because of how old it was. And he luckily never did. And that allowed the technophile to run back and jump up in the griffin. So now all of a sudden, the mercenaries were on the losing end of things. And they pretty much got their asses whipped so bad that they surrendered and agreed to leave the mechs that had been disabled as salvage if they were allowed to go ahead and withdraw. The players allowed it. They're like, fine, take what you got left and limp your asses on. So they ended up leaving behind is like a Vindicator and something else. I mean, not important to the story, right? And then the mech, the players were super happy. They had this mech, the Black Gold. It turned out the Black Gold was the name of the thug. It actually had it was all black, but in gold letters, it said black gold down one leg. And they were super happy. Now, this campaign took months, like 6 months, and only about a quarter of it involved being in mechs and shooting PPCs at people. Most of it was checking databases, going from one world to the next, talking to the locals, a lot of investigation, more than one fist fight in a bar, an assassination attempt, because the other mercenary guys hired an assassin to try and kill one of the players. And I mean, so much happened above and beyond just stomping around in giant mechs. So that's the point I want to make with Destiny. Remember your tool. Destiny is the tool you use if you want to play Battletech in the Battletech world. Whether you're a cool guy like me and you want to play 30-25 and screw, all that clan garbage, or you're a clanner, okay, fine, whatever. At least you're a Battletech player, and that makes you better than most people, right? But this is just one way you can get the players out of the mech and out on the street doing things, And that's before you even talk about spending, your money to buy extra weapons, get your mechs built, et cetera, from damage, negotiating with the mechanics. Of course, this mercenary group, because they had a technophile with them, he was capable of doing a lot of repairs. And the way I ran the game, mech chassis are designed specifically to have the equipment they have on them. So if you were to upgrade a mech to a different weapon, say take the PPCs off of a Marauder and put some other weapon on, you would have to make a reliability checks, because the Marauder was not designed for these whatever ever other weapons you put on it. And when you're talking about mech, you're talking about a device that is as complicated as the space shuttle. There are millions of parts in one of these things, right? So every mech that was designed, prior to the modularity thing, every single piece was custom made to do exactly the thing in that mech. Every electrical coupling was ran exactly the way for that mech. So no, there was not a lot of, I'm just going to let you customize mechs all over the place. If you want a mech that does something different, save up your money and buy it. Now, Destiny does have a problem that I don't like. However, it's a very fixable problem. And that is they use money as an abstract thing. Basically, XP counts as money too. So anything you would normally spend money on, you can spend XP on. Well, it turns out that a pretty good rate of exchange, and again, I have to thank Jose for this. He's the one who told me about it, is every XP is basically 100,000 C-bills. If you're more interested in actually keeping track of how much money your group of players have stashed in the bank, or how much money it's going to cost to get stuff repaired, etc., you can use that basic thing. So when you award the XP at the end of the game, as the referee, just take a portion of that XP and award it as C-bills, which should have been negotiated before the players even landed on the planet. And that you award them the rest of the XP as XP, which they can use to improve their characters. And you can adjust that however you want to represent the challenges and everything like that. So that's the big problem. If they ever make another edition of this, I hope they get rid of abstract money. It's stupid, because I'm insulted by it, because it's like, So basically, you're saying me and my players aren't smart enough to keep track of how many C builds we got? That's ridiculous. I hate games with abstract money. I really do. I think it's just dumb. And that is an issue with Destiny, but it's the only issue. It's the only wart on the game that is Destiny. Otherwise, it's a great game. And I recommend it with 2 thumbs up. But then again, guys, I'm a BattleTech player, and I also love me some Alpha Strike too. So, I mean, and I played Mechwarrior First Edition, and which the cover of this has a kind of a homage to Second Edition and First Edition. The whole rifleman getting blown up by the whammer, but so yeah, that's the thing. If you're going to play a game and there's a certain theme to the game, pick the right game. I mean, trying to run a horror game with 5e D&D is not going to work, but you could find a copy of Chill, or you could play Call of Cthulhu, depending. That's basically, yeah, I'm going to end that there. So I've described this campaign I ran. The players were incredibly happy with it, because I am an absolutely amazing game master. And that's me being arrogant, sorry. To this day, they still talk about that game, how fun it was. And I got players at my table today who were in that game who sometimes they're like, I wish we could play Mechwarrior again. But, half of my group are like, no, we want to play elves. So it is what it is, right? You got to go with the majority here. But I hope you found this video interesting. And if I didn't see you in this video, I hope I see you in the next. Until then, keep your LRMs fully loaded, remember your range, and never trust a Capella. This is James signing off.